Guardian Games releases today, and I want to answer the question, should you be farming it? We know that this year we're going to be receiving a brand new scout rifle that looks very similar to some scout rifles we already have, but I really do think this scout rifle will hold a special place in the game and is getting overlooked on. Now we also have our returning weapon, the Title SMG. This is a void SMG, so you can take advantage of volatile rounds. I have made plenty of builds in the past with this specific SMG, and I know a lot of y'all in the comments were upset that you weren't able to get it. Well, now the time has come back around and you can farm for it, and you definitely do not want to miss out on it. I'm personally very excited to farm the scout rifle this year, maybe less on the title. We'll get more so into that later in the video. Really quick though, if you are participating, be sure to let me know in the comments below what class you're going to be playing this year to try to bring home that victory. All right, so let's start with the new scout rifle, and I'm going to try it. I think it's pronounced Taraxippos. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Regardless, let's take a look at the roles you can get on this weapon. Starting off in the first column, we have no distractions, outlaw, zen moment, 4 times the charm, movement target, offhand strike, and gut shot straight. In the second column, we have keep away, kill clip, encore, focus fury, cascade point, hatchling, and explosive payload. So there's some pretty decent perks in this thing, but I want you to take in consideration is that this is going to be a lightweight frame scout rifle. That means it fires at 200 rounds per minute, which in my opinion is the best archetype of scout rifle in PvE. I'm not too sure about PvP, but for PvE, typically faster the fire rate, the better it's going to be. And it also does get that lightweight frame bonus, which will give you that plus 20 mobility. And then of course, the other main thing is that this weapon is actually going to be a strand scout rifle. So with that knowledge, let's take a look at some of these perk combinations. And with these first two columns, I typically always just say take whatever makes the gun feel better for you. If there are some outliers, I will point them out, but for this one there really isn't too many. So if you want more stability, build into that. If you want reload speed, build into that. Just build it however you want to. And since this isn't craftable, you're probably just going to take what's best, and you're just going to be looking out for the last two columns. And then for the final note, the reason these Guardian Games weapons are very strong is because it does come with their origin trait, Classy Contender. So final blows with this weapon will grant class ability energy. So as you see, kills will grant 5% class ability energy, and if you're playing into a class ability based build, say Strand Titan, Child of the Old Gods Warlock, any Strand Hunter with their dive, or Void Hunter, you would just get your class ability back a lot faster. It is really good, and being the fact that it's an origin trait and you can take other perks, as most of the time cooldown based perks will be in a actual perk column, you can actually take damage perks while also getting cooldown rate, which is very nice. Now this is a Omolon scout rifle, so it does also have Omolon fluid dynamics. This weapon has increased reload speed and stability for the top half of the magazine. This is more so a better perk for PvP than it is PvE, but I guess it is a pretty cool option. But for PvE, you're mostly taking Classic Contender. Now talking about PvE, we're going to have things like Outlaw, which is probably going to be your best option out of this whole entire first column. You do have 4 times the charm, which we will get into in a second, but for the most part, getting a precision kill is going to drastically increase your reload speed. This perk has definitely went down in popularity as time went on in Destiny. It used to be one of the main perks everyone went for, but with a scout rifle damage buff, you can actually get kills a lot easier with them now, so you can actually proc Outlaw a little bit more. So this is probably by far going to be your best option. Now in the second column for PvE, you have things like Kill Clip, which could be really good. You have things like Focus Fury, which could be okay if you do pair it with some other things. Cascade Point, I guess, is a okay option as well. You're never really going to take advantage of this too much, but I thought I would include it. Hatchling is going to be a great option for Warlocks if you are playing into a threatening based build. And then Explosive Payload is always a great option for PvE. To my knowledge, I don't think there is a strand weapon with the Explosive Payloads. This could be the first in this class. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But just overall, Explosive Payload Outlaw is going to be a great combination if you are just looking for a strand scout rifle, since this is the only one we currently have in the game. Now the role I'm going to be looking out for the most is definitely that Outlaw Hatchling role, since it's going to be even easier just to secure those one-shot kills on red bars. Now you can make a ton of threatenings, which heavily play into the Warlock subclass, and also if you get those headshot kills, you're going to be proc an Outlaw. So that together is going to be kind of like your Outlaw Firefly combination from back in the day, but instead of Firefly, you're just basically making little companions that will do all the damage for you. That's going to be a very fun role. Now 4 times the charm Explosive Payload's not a terrible option for in-game PvE if you are using primary weapon for damage. You could also take 4 times the charm Focus Fury, and pairing that with Omolon fluid dynamics, you're pretty much always going to be at the top half of your magazine, so you will get those bonuses. You can kind of just lay waste on a champion. But let's be honest, no one's probably going to be going for this role, but I guess if you do get it, I would definitely just vault it. You know, it may be good at some point, but the problem is with roles like these is the fact that it is a strand weapon, which means it's going to be really tough to consider using it over a kinetic weapon, since kinetics just do more damage. And typically, in my opinion, if you are playing into a elemental based weapon, you're going to be running things like hatchling to take advantage of its unique specific perk. If you're trying to run a primary weapon for damage, you're probably going to just swap over to an exotic, or like I said, just run a kinetic legendary. But that's for PvE. For PvP, you have things like no distractions. Outlaw is also still really good. Zen Moment got a huge buff. This is also really good. Moving target is good. Offhand strike, I guess, could be pretty fun, and gutshot straight may have an interesting combination. I don't know how well this is going to be though. Keep away is a great perk on all PvP weapons. Kill clip's also good. Encore is good. Cascade point, I know you can kind of get it to work, but I don't really run this in PvP that much. Hatchling, I guess, isn't the worst option, and then explosive payload is good for flinching enemies. Now for me personally, I think I would probably go with Zen Moment and explosive payload for my go-to just workhorse weapon. It's very consistent. It flinches enemies. It has a lot of stability, and on top of that, pairing that with the Omelon Fluid Dynamics perk, you would just have a very accurate scout rifle. If you want to play into more moving target, you can, but I think the best bang for your buck is going to be Zen Moment. You kind of just sit further in the back of the map and just pluck away the enemies with explosive payload, because this will basically take half your damage and make half of it just not have any fall off damage, alongside also it being a scout rifle, so it has a lot of range in the first place. So very long range weapon alongside a very accurate weapon. Now you also have things like gutshot straight, like I mentioned, so this is going to increase your body shot damage. What's really cool though is if this can actually pair with explosive payload, since it does split your damage up, if it somehow manages to give it an extra increase of damage, that could be a pretty good combination. I don't think it's going to work like that, but if it does, that's definitely something you want to be on the lookout for. I just personally don't like gutshot straight because of the decreased target acquisition, but if it's up your alley, it's cool because it's in the first column, which, you know, normally damage perks are in the second column, so you can actually pair those things like kill clip would also be pretty good. Now again, you have things like keep away, which is really good. Now you don't really need that much range on a scout rifle, but you do get that accuracy cone, which is nice, and reload speed. You're going to be far away anyway, so something like keep away and Zen Moment can be really good combined together. Kill clip, fun option in PvP like we were just talking about. Encore is also a really good perk, but again, you don't really need the range increase that you get from this. The stability, I guess, is okay, but it is relying on getting kills. I typically like to make weapons just be very consistent without ever having to get kills. Just make it rely on, you know, the ranger from an enemy, you know, your hidden enemy, just your strafing, anything like that. I don't like perks in PvP that make me have to get kills to make something do well. And then, like I said, cascade point can be kind of okay. I think it would be kind of fun to just shoot a cascade point 200 round from the scout rifle. It'll shoot very fast, and you could just pump out a lot of damage. But overall, again, I think my go-to role is definitely going to be Zen Moment, explosive payload. Definitely run Omelon Fluid Dynamics as well. But if I can't get that, Zen Moment, keep away is also going to be a very great option. It's going to be a super consistent option, especially pairing that with Omelon Fluid Dynamics. And you're just going to be able to sit in the back of the map and constantly just oppress enemies. It's going to be basically a mini Mida multi-tool. Now we move on to the title, and I'm going to be honest, I'm really sorry about this. They brought this weapon back, and it just does not have as good as perks as it did in the first year, in my opinion. Honestly, it still does have some decent perks, and if you don't have a title, I would definitely still recommend getting it. But the role I liked the most was Stats for All, One for All, which, as you can see, neither of those perks are now available. But let's take a look at the perks. We have Perpetual Motion, Threat Detector, Envious Assassin, Dynamic Sway Reduction, Pugilist, Offhand Strike, and Shot Swap alongside Surrounded, Vorpal Weapon, Repulsor Brace, Rangefinder, Swashbuckler, Focus Fury, and Gutshot Straight. Once again, this does come with the Classic Contender perk, which is the main reason I run the title in some builds. Again, to get that class ability regeneration rate, you put this on your Falcon's Hunter so you can get that class ability back. You're just always going to have volatile rounds 24/7. This also does have Hawk Breach armaments, which I guess is okay for PvP for taking down Titan shields. But again, you could also just run Classic Contender in PvP. It's just depending on, I guess, how many Titans you're playing against. Now, in these first two columns, again, always make sure just go with what makes the gun feel good for you. I will say in PvE though, there is an exception, and that is armor piercing rounds. This is going to give you a plus 5 increase to range, but it also will actually give you increased damage to shields. It is a 5% increase to that damage. And if you're trying to min-max every little perk on this weapon, you definitely want to look out for this because it just gives you more damage to take shields off. With max game being out the game, you can run this weapon everywhere now. This is a very valuable perk to have because you can just take down shields a lot faster. Now, starting off with PvE, perpetual motion is not a terrible option. Threat detector is a pretty good option on PvE SMGs. Since you're going to be close anyway, you'll get a bunch of benefits out of this. Envious Assassin is not the worst option. I just don't like taking this on primary weapons because normally my special weapon is going to be used for taking out mages. I'm not going to be really getting a lot of ad clear with it, and this is in the slot with Forbearance, so Forbearance is normally your ad clear weapon, so that would help proc Envious Assassin, but you're not going to be getting this proc alive. But it's not the worst option. Pugilist is good if you're playing into a melee focused build, and that's pretty much your best bet in the first column. Now for your second column for PvE, Surrounded is a okay option. I personally do not like this perk at all. I know some people swear by it, but I just don't really see the benefits you get out of it, in my opinion, and it just goes away relatively quick. But if you like Surrounded, it is on there, and it's definitely something you could take. Warple, I guess, is okay, but you're not really going to be using this for doing damage to, you know, bosses or champions or anything like that, so I definitely wouldn't recommend this, but it is a okay PvE perk. Repulsor Brace is a new perk on it, which is really good. You can get your overshield a lot, and if you are pairing this with a Gerfalcon's Hunter, this is a very good option. Swashbuckler is okay. It is a damage increase. If you get a melee kill, it'll actually give it max stack, so if you want a damage perk on it, this is good for that. And then you do have Gutshot Straight, which is, I guess, technically a damage perk, but you're never going to use this. Just dismantle this if you get it, if you're looking for a PvE weapon. Now for combinations, you have Threat Detector Surrounded. That's a great option. Perpetual Motion Swashbuckler is just really good. You get a damage increase, you get some overall stats. Threat Detector with pretty much any of these perks, honestly, is going to be really good. Threat Detector Swashbuckler is good. Threat Detector Repulsor Brace, Perpetual Motion Repulsor Brace, they're just very stat heavy perks that don't take much to proc on SMGs due to their intrinsic playstyle, so you could just kind of always have these up. Like I said, Envious Assassin's not terrible. I honestly wouldn't recommend taking it though. Pugilist Swashbuckler, really good option. It's heavily playing into a melee focused build. The problem is this weapon is heavily playing into your class ability, so you're trying to pair it with class ability based builds, so you're never really going to use this too much. So in my opinion, I would definitely just go with something like Threat Detector and Repulsor Brace if you specifically are playing into void based builds. But Threat Detector, Swashbuckler, or even Surrounded is good if you just want a damage increase in perk. If you want to take this into any other class ability based build, say something like a Strand build. Like I said at the beginning, unfortunately there is no stats for all, one for all. That was just by far the best option in my opinion. You get so many stat bonuses and you get a 35% damage increase. But alas, it did not come back. But if you are playing into void builds, I would definitely recommend getting one with Repulsor Brace, mainly Gerfalcon's Hunter. Now for PvP, you have Perpetual Motion. Threat Detector is not the worst in PvP. Dynamic Sway Reduction, I guess Pugilist can also work. Offhand Strike could be very fun. And Shot Swap is a perk, but let's be honest, no one's going to be running this. Now in the second column, you have things like Repulsor Brace again, which is honestly not terrible if you are playing Gerfalcon's Hunter. Rangefinder is also obviously a very good option. Swashbuckler is not the worst. And I guess again, Gutshot Straight, if you are landing a lot of body shots, I would not recommend this, but it is there if you want to take it. Now the problem in PvP is that this SMG is going to be competing a lot of the other great contenders, namely the Immortal, so it's not going to be the best bang for your buck, but it can get things like a rangefinder and dynamic sway reduction, putting a lot of range on here with things like, you know, ricochet rounds. You can, you know, get a pretty decent weapon out of this. Plus it does also have things like classic contender, which the Immortal does not, but the Immortal does have field tested, so again, you're just kind of out of luck. But if you don't have an Immortal and you do get a roll like that, I would definitely recommend keeping it. But it does go in your second slot, which is its main benefit, so you can run other exotic stuff in your kinetic slot. But you do have fun stuff like Offense Strike if you want to try to make a fun build with this. But for PvP, I don't really think you're going to be using this because there are just a bunch of other better SMGs. But if I had to choose one, I would definitely go with Rangefinder, Dynamic Sway Reduction. So that's pretty much the role for these weapons. If you were curious, you want to farm it, I really hope this helped you out and helped you answer that question. The title's definitely going to be a lot better for your PvE roles. It does have some PvP, but again, you're competing with some of the best of the best. And the Scout Rifle is really good for specifically playing into Strand. It does have some okay things like with explosive payload if you want to take it onto any other subclass, but it does have some really good PvP perks, which I would definitely be on the lookout for if you do love using Scout Rifles in PvP. But regardless, that's going to do it all for me. If y'all enjoyed learning anything new, consider subscribing, drop a like, turn those notifications on. Also, if you like joining my Discord or follow me on any of my socials, all that will be linked in the description as well. But just know watching this video is way more than enough, and that every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. Thank y'all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.